So, this is the Bhajana Kriya session of our Sraddha Prema Govinda Valley retreat. His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada has given a very nice description of this Sraddha Prema program in a book which he partially translated, and that is the Narada Bhakti Sutra. Prabhupada did not translate and purport on every verse, but on some of the verses he did. And this particular sutra, which is Sutra number 2, was translated and given a purport by Srila Prabhupada. So we're reading from this purport of Prabhupada. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1, 4, 15 and 16, Srila Rupa Goswami, a great authority in the devotional line, describes the different stages in coming to the point of love of Godhead. Adau Sraddha tatastadu sangata bhajana kriya tato narata nivrittisyat tato nishtavrijistataha atasaktis tato bhavas tata prema vyamdanchati sadakanam mayang premna padurbhave bhavet kramaha. The first requirement is that one should have sufficient faith that the only process for attaining love of God is bhakti, devotional service to the Lord. Throughout the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna teaches that one should give up all other processes of self-realization and fully surrender unto Him. That is faith. One who has full faith in Krishna, Shraddha, and surrenders unto Him is eligible for being raised to the level of Prema, which Lord Chaitanya taught as the highest perfectional stage of human life. Some persons are addicted to materially motivated religion, while others are addicted to economic development, sense gratification, or the idea of salvation from material existence. But Prema, love of God, is above all these. This highest stage of love is above mundane religiosity, above economic development, above sense gratification, and above even liberation or salvation. Thus, love of God begins with a firm faith that one who engages in full devotional service has attained perfection in all these processes. The next stage in the process of elevation to the love of God is sadhu sangha, association with persons already in the highest stage of love of God. One who avoids such association and simply engages in mental speculation or so-called meditation cannot be raised to the perfectional platform. But one who associates with pure devotees or an elevated devotional society goes to the next stage, Bhajana Kriya, or acceptance of the regulative principles of worshipping the Supreme Lord. One who associates with the pure devotee of the Lord naturally accepts that person as his spiritual master. And when the neophyte devotee accepts a pure devotee as his spiritual master, the duty of the spiritual master is to train the neophyte in the principles of regulated devotional service, or Vaidhi Bhakti. At this stage, the devotee's service is based on his capacity to serve the Lord. The expert spiritual master engages his followers in work that will gradually develop their consciousness of service to the Lord. Therefore, the preliminary stage of understanding Prema, love of God, is to approach a proper, pure devotee, accept him as one spiritual master, and execute regulated devotional service under his guidance. So, Bhajana Kriya means you have to accept the spiritual master. If one does not accept a spiritual master, he cannot advance beyond the point of Bhajana Kriya. In other words, he can go to sadhu sangha, but he can't go beyond that. So one may question, well, why is that? Why I have to have a spiritual master? Can't I just do this on my own? As I pointed out earlier, it is stated in the Adi Purana by Lord Krishna to Arjuna, Ye me bhakta jana parta, na me bhaktas chate janaha, mad bhakchanam chaye bhaktas, te me bhakta tamamata. The one who is my devotee, na me bhaktas, he's not my devotee. But the devotee of my devotee, he is my devotee. So this is how dear the devotees are to Krishna. His devotees are so dear to him that unless we are devoted to his devotees, he says, no, I don't want you. You're not welcome. Unless you're devoted to my devotees, forget it. Prabhupada often quoted in this connection an English maxim, if you love me, love my dog. He explained how the spiritual master is the dog of God. So if you want to love the master, you have to love the dog. Actually, a big man in this world is very difficult to approach. Just imagine if Bill Gates came walking through the forest, and he's surrounded by bodyguards, of course, and you wanted to meet him. Bill Gates, very wealthy billionaire, one of the wealthiest men on the planet, you wanted to meet him. It would not be easy to just go up and say hello and start talking with Bill Gates. But if he's out walking his dog and his dog comes over and makes friends, you become friends with his dog, you see. Now you have your connection. Now it's easy. Oh, my dog likes this person, so let me talk with this person, you see. So in this way, Krishna is very difficult to approach. He's very, very big man. You cannot just go and directly approach Krishna. It's not possible. But if you have that connection with Krishna through the pure devotee, through the spiritual master, then immediately you're accepted. Another example, just say you want to see the President of the United States. You go to Washington, you show up at the White House and go to the gate and say, I've come to see the President. Well, I'm sorry, no one's allowed in to see the President unless they have an invitation. But let's say you just happen to know one of his children, good friends with one of his children, or his wife, or one of the intimates of his family. You're good friends with one of his family members, and immediately you're in. You see? So in this way, if you have that connection with someone who is very, very dear to Krishna, then immediately you have access to Krishna. But otherwise you can never gain the access with Krishna. So this acceptance of the bona fide spiritual master is such an important thing. This is confirmed in the Mundaka Upanishad. Tad viganartam sagarum eva bigatset samit panehi shrotyam pramanishtam. This word, eva bigatset, this means absolutely compulsory, absolutely necessary. In Sanskrit language, there are different verbal endings. Just like gachati means he goes, gachanti means they go, gachat means must go. So this form, the compulsory form called vidhi lin form of the verb, is utilized in this verse of the Mundaka Upanishad. Eva bigatchet, you must go. That's absolutely compulsory, it's not an option. If you want to realize the absolute truth, you must go to a bona fide spiritual master. So how do you go? Samit panihi shrotyam brahmanishtam. This verse says you should come with firewood. Because formerly the gurus, they would do Agnihotra Yagya. So you assist in the Yagya, performance of Yagya, but the spiritual master is doing Agnihotra Yagya, so you bring firewood to assist him in the Yagya. So in this age we are also doing, of course we have Agnihotra, the time of initiation. Always encourage the disciples to bring wood for the ceremony, if they can. because it's it's a nice verse. But the real thing is the Sankirtan Yajna, you see. That is the Agnihotra for this age. We are burning up the fire of sinful activities, performing the Harinam Sankirtan Yajna. So one should assist the spiritual master in his performance of Sankirtan Yajna. This is the duty of the disciple, to assist the spiritual master in his mission of delivering the fallen souls back to home, back to Godhead. That is fulfilling the injunction in Mundaka Upanishad, to assist the spiritual master in performing the Sankirtan Yajna. And then that verse also gives you a clue as to how to recognize who is a bona fide spiritual master. Shrotyam Brahmanishtam. Shrotyam means he is expert in the Vedic wisdom. He has heard the Shruti wisdom. He's expert. He's transmitting it purely. This is all understood by the Sanskrit word Shrotyam. He is giving that Shruti in its pure form, pure unadulterated Shrutis from the Parampara system. Evam Parampara Praptam Mirmam Rajarshayo Vilu. And the last two words in the shloka, Brahmanishtam. He's fixed in realization of the absolute truth. He's Krishna conscious, you see. So you have to find out that spiritual master who's repeating verbatim the Vedic wisdom without any addition or subtraction, who is giving the pure Vedic Siddhanta, and who is fixed in Krishna consciousness. He's not only speaking it, you see, but he's living it 24 hours a day, in all times, all places, and all circumstances. It's not that he's a part-time spiritual master during the week, and on the weekends he goes to parties and the movies, like that, you see, like a professional guru. No, he lives Krishna consciousness. We never saw that Prabhupada went in the evenings to an off-Broadway play or something like that. Because he's in New York, let me enjoy the New York scene. No, Prabhupada never did. He was simply always absorbed in Krishna consciousness, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You may say, but that sounds so austere. I mean, I couldn't go to the opera house and this and that. But wait a minute. Krishna consciousness is so relishable. Who wants to watch television or waste time with mundane movies when you can see Krishna within your heart? You see, this is the mystic television. Why pollute your mind and disallow yourself to actually see Krishna within your heart when you can become detached from all of these mundane disturbances of the mind, actually. They simply disturb the mind. What satisfaction can you get from material sense gratification? It titillates your senses for a few minutes only, and then you're frustrated and agitated. Dushparena nalena cha. The senses burn like fire and they're never satisfied. You may give them some gratification, but when you feed wood to a fire, does the fire cool down? No. That fire burns hotter. The more you feed it, the hotter it gets. Therefore, in Vedic culture, we minimize the sense gratification. We take as much as is necessary to be healthy. I mean, you have to give the body some things for health. A certain amount of eating is required, sleeping, sex life, defending. A certain amount of these things are required. So give the body what it requires, and not more than that. And then you can take the balance energy saved by not splurging your whole life in sense gratification. You can take the balance energy saved and utilize it to liberate yourself from the false bodily concept of life. It doesn't make any sense to continue to misidentify oneself with this bodily bag of three elements. Yashatma buddhi kunaphe tridhaduke svadi kalatradhi shubhoma ijati yatirta buddhi salile nakarhashij janeshvamageshasa eva gokaraha. That person who misidentifies this bodily bag of three elements, mucus, bile, and air, to be his very self, who takes the neighborhood where he grew up and rode his tricycle around the block to be a holy place of pilgrimage, is it? Who considers his relatives to be those persons who are related to his material body, not realizing that all living entities are actually my relatives. And who goes to a holy place of pilgrimage or goes to the temple simply for darshan, but is not willing to sit down and hear the class. What does Bhagavatam say? Saeva Gokadaha. It's simply cow and ass. One has to become very eager to hear from the bona fide spiritual master. This is a very, very important thing. Unless there's that eagerness to hear from the bona fide spiritual master, you're going to remain in nonsense. I'm sorry to say, but you will remain in nonsense. Unless you're very eager to hear from the spiritual master, you will never get the sufficient realization, you will never get the sufficient potency, you will never get the sufficient empowerment to liberate yourself, to extricate yourself from the influence of the three modes of material nature. Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. The spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, considers himself to be the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by the three modes of material nature. So these three modes are very, very powerful. Tribhir gunamaya bhavaira evi sarvamidam jagat mohitam navijanati mamyabhya paramabhyayam. Deluded by the three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, the whole world does not know me, who am above the modes and inexhaustible. Daivihesha gunamayi mama maya dadatyaya mamevaye prapadyante maya metam tarantite. This divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is very difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. So that system of how to surrender to Krishna is described here. That is the whole subject matter of our retreat, Sraddha to Prema. That third step is once you've come to the point of realizing you want to become self-realized and taking up the association of devotees, the next step is you must seek out a bona fide spiritual master. That's the next step. Until you seek a bona fide spiritual master, take shelter of him, get initiated by him, and after initiation, that doesn't mean your business is finished. If I simply think, well, I'm initiated now, I'm saved, I can do whatever I want. Is that Krishna consciousness? No, that's Christianity. I accepted Jesus, now I can do whatever I want, you see. No, the third item given by Rupa Goswami, he emphasizes 3 points in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. The first thing is, take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. Number 2, get initiated by the bona fide spiritual master. And number 3, follow the orders of the spiritual master. Those 3 items, you see. That third item is very essential. Otherwise, your initiation is a sham. It's a sham, that's all it is. It has no meaning. Unless one follows the orders of the spiritual master, his initiation has no meaning. Because what is initiation? It's a contract to follow the orders of the spiritual master. I'm now making commitments, Srila Gurudev or Srila Guru Maharaj, that I will follow your instructions. I will take your orders as my life and soul. That's initiation. So if you don't follow them, that means you have thrown away your contract. You've rejected your contract. You've torn up your contract and thrown it in the trash bin if you don't follow the orders of your spiritual master. So these are very, very essential points. As we are analyzing minutely, what is this system now? Sraddha to Prema. We have to understand properly each step. If one step is not taken in the right way, it's not going to lead you to the next step. If you're driving from Sydney to Govinda Valley, and you have your directions, where you go up to this road, you turn here, you make that turn. At any point, you don't follow the directions correctly, then you become lost. You have to follow the directions correctly at each step. At each step. And then you will achieve the destination. Govinda Valley of Goloka, you see. The original Goloka Valley, you see. Goloka Vrindavan. You want to see the real Govardhan? Go back to Godhead. This one here is shrunk down. In the original Govardhan, it's a huge mountain of waterfalls and caves, all kinds of fragrant fruits. Now, it's not much left because of the influence of Kali Yuga and the influence of Palasya Muni's curse. There's not much left of Govardhan right now. It's a small hill, really, and there's no waterfalls coming off Govardhan Hill now. But now it's very dry and arid. But formerly it was lush, with beautiful birds and all kinds of fruits and flowers and waterfalls and caves where the cowherd boys would have all kinds of amazing pastimes with Krishna, running and playing, you see. So if you want to see that original Govardhan, you see, you have to qualify yourself. You have to pay the price for the ticket. Sraddha. That first item. The first item is that faith. You see, you have to have strong faith. As I was quoting earlier in an earlier session, that verse by Rupa Goswami, given the Pajavali. It's really nice. I don't know if you have studied, but it is very nice. The Pajavali also is there. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the Pajavali. Rupa Goswami has given the most profound wisdom on the science of bhakti. He says, Krishna bhakti rasa babita mati kriyatang yadi kutopi labhyate tattalayang muyam api muyam ekalam janmakoti sukritarina labhyate. Pure devotional service in Krishna consciousness cannot be had even by pious activities in hundreds and thousands and millions of lifetimes. It can be attained only by paying one price, tattalayam, the intense greed to attain it. And then Rupa Goswami concludes by saying, if it is available somewhere, then you must purchase it without delay. So Prabhupada has made it available here in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. This is a place where you can get that Krishna Bhakti Rasa, that Krishna consciousness. This is the place. So now you must bring your faith and you must pay the price of faith. And then you can get this Krishna Bhakti Rasa, Krishna Bhakti. And then all of your desires will be satisfied. You become the happiest person. I mean, why suffer? Does anybody here like suffering? Who would like to suffer right now? Anybody ready? I'll give you one big jar full of suffering. You can drink it. No one wants to suffer. Because the nature of the living entity, anannamaya vyasat, the nature of the living entity is he wants to enjoy. So if you're not happy, if you're not blissful all the time, you're doing something wrong. You're not connected with Krishna. You're not connected with your actual spiritual identity. So if you want to get connected with your spiritual identity, then you have to follow the authorized system. Sraddha to Prema. That's the authorized system of becoming reconnected with your actual eternal identity. Anything else will fall short of the mark. As Prabhupada mentioned, various items here. Materially motivated religion, economic development, sense gratification, salvation, none of these will satisfy. Practically all the religion nowadays is materially motivated. They go to the church, the temple, the synagogue, give me this, give me that, just like that song. Give me a Cadillac, a brand new Cadillac, replete with Michelin tires. Give my wife a new silk sari. Give my kids a Harvard education. Give me a house by the sea. Om Jaya Jagadisha Hari. You see? I'm not picking on the Hindus. Everybody's doing it. The Hindus are doing it, the Christians, the Muslims. Everybody is going with their shopping list. Okay, God, if you're really there, here's what I want. Prove it to me by giving me everything I want. You see? Now what kind of God consciousness is that? That's not God consciousness. That's house but a sea consciousness, you know. I know my parents taught me like that. They said, little Stevie, what do you want? What do you want for Christmas, little Stevie? He said, well, cowboy boots. He said, well, now little Stevie, you should pray every day. My dear God, please give me cowboy boots for Christmas. They wanted to teach me how to believe in God. They wanted to teach me to be religious. So they had me pray for cowboy boots every day. And they made sure they put cowboy boots under the Christmas tree. And they thought that's how they could train me to believe in God, you see. I mean, I don't fault them, but that was the best they could do. That's the understanding they had of God, you see. They were playing God. So, this sort of selfishness doesn't bring love of God, you see. If you're using God to satisfy your desires, this is called materially motivated religion. But Bhagavatam says, Dharman what is that verse? Dharmak projitakaita votra madamo nirmatsaranam sutam. This is the wonderful shloka, the second verse of the Bhagavatam. It says, completely rejecting all religious activities that are materially motivated, this Bhagavad Purana propounds the highest truth, which is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. So this truth, you see, we are giving this truth. Prabhupada has given us this truth, and we are now presenting this truth to the suffering people of this planet. And if you want actual happiness, you can't be selfish. You have to become selfless in your relationship with God, in your relationship with the devotees of God, and in your relationship with all living beings. You have to become selfless. As long as you carry on with this false egoistic conception of thinking that you are the center of enjoyment, I guarantee you, you will feel miserable. As long as you consider that you are the center of enjoyment, you must be miserable. Because that is a miserly conception, that you are the center of enjoyment. You are not the center of enjoyment. Krishna or God is the center of enjoyment. And only when you agree to be the eternal servant of Krishna can you come to the actual platform of happiness. So this is how you determine who is a bona fide spiritual master. Who is teaching me that I am the eternal servant of Krishna? Who is teaching me that I'm not the center of enjoyment? That's why if the spiritual master tells you that you are God, but you have forgotten it, and now you give me $5,000, and in 6 months I will teach you how to become God, you should run away as fast as you can. Get out of there as fast as you can. Because they are worse. These charlatan gurus are better to be an honest sweeper in the street than a charlatan spiritual master who misguides the people. You see? So we want that unending joy, that unending happiness, brahmasarkam tvanantam. And we must come to the shelter of the bona fide spiritual master. Because he can give us the mercy of Krishna. He's the DHL man for the Lord's mercy. Spiritual master actually does not bring his own mercy. He is like the rain cloud. He is bringing the soothing waters from the ocean. The ocean waters evaporate into the sky and form the clouds. And then by the influence of the wind, the clouds come to the land and they dump their water on the blazing forest fire and extinguish it. So the spiritual master is like that rain cloud of mercy. He is bringing actually the mercy of Krishna in the form of the rainwater. It's not that Krishna is compared to the ocean, the spiritual master is compared to the cloud, and our suffering hearts burning in lust, anger, madness, greed, and envy are compared to the forest fire. So So that's why we need the spiritual master. We are separated from the ocean. Krishna is far away in the spiritual world. But the spiritual master is that via medium who connects us with the mercy of Krishna. So if we'll take advantage of the mercy of the spiritual master, by opening our hearts to him, by opening our ears to take in that message that he is speaking, to take that message deep, deep, deep into the heart, you see, then our vision becomes purified. We're talking about Sraddha Prema. Well, this Prema stage is described in the Brahma Samhita. Preman janacharita bhakti valochanena santak sadai brihidayeshu velokayanti yang shamushunja ramachinja ganasvarupam govindamari purusham tamaham bhajami. Brahmaji is saying that when one's eyes become anointed with the salve of love of God, then he can see Krishna everywhere, within and without. So, how do you get this ointment? Where do you get it? Is it down at the local pharmacy? How do you pick it up? Where do you get this premanjana? It's interesting, the word, the English word ointment, there's a rarely used synonym of ointment, which is unguent. It's interesting, if you look it up in the unabridged dictionary. Unguent. So unguent, anjana. Sanskrit, in Sanskrit it's anjana. Prem anjana. The prem unguent. You see? So if you can get this prem unguent, this prem anjana, and you can anoint your eyes with it, and you'll wake up, those of you who are sleeping, you see. And this will wake you up. Your eyes will become, you'll wake up. So, this Prem Anjana, when your eyes become purified by it, then you can see Krishna everywhere. Actually, Krishna is already everywhere. Do you think Krishna is not present? Krishna is already present. He's already in front of us. We're so blind we cannot see. Just like I see Chandan here, he has thick corrective lenses. Take them off for a minute. How many fingers am I holding up? Can't tell, you see. Put them on again. How many fingers? See? Without the glasses, you can't even see how many fingers, but with you can see. So in the same way, actually God is in front of us right now, but we cannot see. Our vision is so blurred, we cannot see Krishna in our presence. We cannot see Krishna. Even though He's there. He's present everywhere. He's omnipresent. We cannot see Krishna. Because our eyes are so blurred out from lust, anger, greed, madness, illusion, and envy. So this Prema Anjana is like the corrective lenses. It corrects the eyes, you see. So you can actually, once your eyes, when he puts the glasses back on, you can easily see 2 fingers. So the Prema Anjana is like putting on the corrective lenses. It purifies the eyes, it cures the eye disease that we have of lust, anger, greed, madness, illusion, and envy. So you can actually see Krishna. So it's described by this Krishna Prema process. And the process of the Prema Anjana process is where we're going through detail. It's Sraddha to Prema. This is the Prema Anjana process. So by this process, step by step, gradually you'll get your vision back. You'll see God face to face. So if there's any questions, you can pass them forward. I should be writing questions down as we go. I don't know if anybody has done that, but please write some questions and send them on up. No questions? Anyone have? All right. And this is for every session, write down questions as we're speaking. Write them down. That's the standing procedure here for this retreat. Anyone have any questions right now? Then just verbally. So what do you think? Is this process easy or difficult? What do you say, Gurudas? Is it easy or difficult?
Difficult.
Difficult. Why do you say it's difficult?
Because I feel it. So.
What is the difficulty?
Difficulty is to accept that the process is easy.
You have a difficult time accepting it's easy. Actually, it's simultaneously easy and difficult, this process. Prabhupada said it's simple for the simple and difficult for the crooked. So what does it say about you?
Prabhupada said everything about me. I agree.
We have to admit we're crooked, you see. If we're having difficulty, it's our own crookedness. I'm not picking on him, it's true of all of us, you see. He just happened to be the one that got used as the example, but the fact is that if we're having difficulty, it's our own crookedness. But if we're just a simple, humble soul who just wants to please God, then there's no difficulty at all. And because we have this little thing of wanting to play God ourselves in different ways, in our relationships with others especially. I'll be honest, that's our tendency. In our relationships with each other, I want to play God over you. That's what happens. Each one of us wants to play God. We don't want to be the humble servant, we want to be God. We want to be the supreme. You see. That's where we went into difficulty. Instead of thinking, how can I serve you and how can I please you, I can think, why are you being so demanding anyway? You see? Why are you being so demanding? Instead of thinking, how can I please you? How can I please you? How can I please you? I think, why are you being so demanding? You see, that attitude, that's what makes it difficult. We think of the devotees, why are the devotees so demanding of me? That same attitude, here's the insider's secret. Whatever feeling you have about your relationship with the devotees, that translates into your relationship with Krishna. You can do this in your book. Whatever feeling you have in your relationship with devotees translates into your relationship with Krishna, because they are the representatives of Krishna. If you feel the devotees are unnecessarily troubling you with this request and that request, then actually that's your feeling about Krishna. Krishna is being a little bit too much. I mean, Krishna should back off a little bit and let me enjoy, you see. That's when we have difficulties. But if we're always in the mood of thinking, how can I please the Vaishnavas? How can I serve the Vaishnavas? You see? Then there's no obstacles whatsoever in our pathway back to home, back to Godhead. We simply have to learn how to be in the mood of serving Guru and Vaishnavas. Now we see sometimes a devotee will do, for pleasing Guru, yes, I'm ready immediately to please Guru. Whatever Guru Maharaj wants, yes, no problem. But if somebody else asks for something, back off. That's another problem, you see. Because the Narottam Das has explained to us very clearly in his song Nama Sankirtan. It's there in our songbook. Anande Balohari Bhaja Vrindavan Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Manjai Aman. He says, ecstatically chant Hare Krishna, worship the holy Vrindavan Dham, and always worship within your heart the lotus feet of Guru and Vaishnavas. So, you can't just be dedicated to your Guru only and say, the heck with all those other devotees. You have to be devoted to all of the devotees, actually. You may say, but how can I do that? This retreat, there's 60 devotees. How can I be devoted to every devotee? How is it possible? But actually it is possible. Because if you're sincerely trying to please Krishna, then by that one consciousness of always wanting to do everything in a way that pleases Krishna, then you can please everyone. Just by watering the root of the tree, all the leaves and branches are nourished. So you don't have to think, oh, it's impossible, I have to please everyone. If you're just trying to act in a relationship with each and every devotee, that the way you're relating with that devotee is pleasing to Krishna, then you'll see it's very easy, it's very sublime. In the process, all of a sudden, just all the obstacles just melt. It's like a downhill, it's an uphill struggle in the beginning, you see. Bhajana Kriya, is described by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, is an uphill struggle. There's so many interruptions. But once you get over the hump, you see, once you get over that anartha nivritti, and you start going into nishta, ruchi, asakti, it's a downhill at that point. Bhajana Kriya, that's when you're first starting off, it's an uphill struggle. Because you're going to, again and again, your mind will become so disturbed by this, so disturbed by that, you'll become diverted by so many things. Even after initiation, there'll be so many disturbances. Because you're not used to it. You're not used to being in the mood of bhakti. You're used to being the enjoyer of this material world. So until you get actually used to and comfortable with the idea of being the servant and not the enjoyer, you're going to have a lot of mental disturbance. That's a fact. But if you just patiently stick with the process, gradually you get over that hump, that anartha nivritti hump, you see, and then just downhill from there. And just take off. Your devotional service will take off like a rocket. You'll be blissing out every day. You'll wake up every morning with a big smile on your face. Oh wow, another day to serve Krishna. Thank you, Krishna, for giving me another day to serve you. In this way, you see, your heart will just be dancing in ecstasy. Okay, Hare Krishna Gurudev. You said that we must not try to control everything, imitate Krishna, but be a humble devotee. What steps can one take in becoming humble? It's very simple. Lord Chaitanya has told us exactly what to do to become humble. You should offer all respect to others without expecting any respect for yourself. You see, we have a tendency that, okay, Prabhu, I will respect you as long as you respect me. I'm willing to give you all respect as long as you respect me back. But hey, if you don't respect me back, I'm not going to respect you. You see, that's not humble. That's proud. That's proud. But the humble devotee, he's all respect. Even if you call me a nonsense rascal, even if you harass me in so many ways, still I will respect you. What is the example? Lord Jesus Christ. Today they are celebrating the appearance of Lord Jesus. Actually, they don't celebrate it so much. They're interested in presents and getting drunk. This is the day they're supposed to celebrate Lord Jesus' appearance, you see. And Lord Jesus, he had been nailed to the cross by the Roman soldiers. He was destined to die there, being nailed to a cross. They even stabbed him in the side, you see, with a spear. And what was his response? He said, Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing, you see. Can you imagine the compassion? He was begging mercy upon those persons who were murdering him. He was begging mercy. Krishna, please don't punish them. Please spare them. Please be kind upon them, you see. Please forgive them. Just see what humility, what perfect humility was there in Lord Jesus Christ. Prabhupada always very much appreciated Lord Jesus Christ. What a great devotee he was, actually. A very, very great devotee. We have nothing against Lord Jesus. The followers, that's the problem. You see, they've taken his teachings and they've twisted them in so many ways. Now they've twisted that gay marriage is acceptable in Christianity. That's the new one. You see, you can be a Christian bishop and have a gay boyfriend. That's the new thing. In the U.S., in the state of Vermont, which is a small state in the northeastern part of the country, the Episcopal Church has elected a gay priest to be the bishop for the whole state. He's the head Episcopalian priest in the whole state of Vermont, and he's living with a gay boyfriend having homosex. And he goes to the church and they honor him as the great spiritual leader, you see. So this is where Christianity is heading, because they've forgotten the essence of what Christ was teaching, that pure selfless love of God. They've forgotten it. They've invented some new. It's not Christianity. It's not true following of Lord Jesus. Actually, I was looking for how to become a true follower of Lord Jesus, and I didn't find the Christian church could teach me how to do that, but I found that His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada could, in fact, teach me how to do that, and that's why I'm here. So when the Christians attack me for not following Jesus, I just say, wait a minute. Jesus wanted me to do this. How you can say I'm not following Jesus? I'm doing this for Jesus. Hare Krishna. Is it? This is real Christianity. This is genuine following of Lord Jesus. Once Christ comes again, he'll be a Hare Krishna devotee. And they'll want to crucify him again. The same Christians will want to crucify him once again. You see? It's like they want to criticize us, you see. Oh, they're going to hell, you see. So anyway, let's see, another question has come. Bhajana Kriya is the acceptance of the regulated principles. Does this mean that Bhajana Kriya should therefore should be there before we take initiation? Yes, you have to prove that you can do it. Because the spiritual master takes a great burden upon himself when he initiates you. Sometimes we give initiation very liberally to help a person get out of their suffering condition. And then they walk away from their commitment. And it creates a great turmoil for the spiritual master to deal with that situation. That I've given my heart and soul to this person. I've taken their karma and now they're dumping me. You see? It's a very difficult thing to be a spiritual master. I found out. It's not an easy thing. You give your heart and soul to liberate somebody and then they reject you. You see, it's a very difficult thing. You give so much loving kindness to someone and then they just reject you. So to minimize that sort of problem, we ask that you should follow the regulated principles for some time to prove that you're going to be able to pull it off and be able to maintain it. We ask you that. Formerly it was for 6 months, and when Prabhupada was here, one had to chant 16 rounds and follow regulated principles for at least 6 months. Now you have to take shelter for 6 months. Now I have to do that for 6 months for shelter and 6 months more for initiation minimum. And some temples or gurus require even more. But the whole idea is the spiritual master is accepting your karma. He's taking a karmic burden of your past sins upon himself, and we have to make sure that you're actually going to be able to maintain your vows. So therefore it's necessary to give one a period of testing before he can be given initiation. This is monitored by the local temple authorities, because the spiritual master will not initiate someone on his own volition. He will take the recommendation of the local authorities, because they're the ones who are seeing that person on a day-to-day basis or once-a-week basis, hopefully. And so they have to certify this person is ready for initiation. How different is Bhajana Kriya to a neophyte devotee following, accepting regulated principles? How is it different to a neophyte devotee? I don't quite understand the question. Different from what?
Sometimes you see neophyte devotees who are also following the four regulated principles, but how different is that from what Bhajana Kriya means, like actually accepting the regulated principles?
Bhajana Kriya means to engage. Kriya means activities, doing, acting, and Bhajana means devotional. Bhajana Kriya literally means devotional activities. So now you've taken up, you had faith, you associated with the devotees, you saw the activities that they're doing. You know, they put tilak on, they get up early, they give up illicit sex, meeting, intoxication, and gambling. They chant 16 rounds daily, they offer their food. You've seen all the bhajana they're doing, and now you're also doing Bhajana Kriya. You're doing devotional activities. That's what it means, Bhajana Kriya, and that the essential item there is Diksha. As Rupa Goswami, I was mentioning, he says, he emphasizes 3 points in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu especially: shelter, initiation, and following the orders. So these are the first, when he mentions, Rupa Goswami gives a huge list of 64 different items of bhakti. This is described in the Nectar Devotion. The first 3 points in this huge list of 64 items is shelter, initiation, and following the instructions. So the whole thing, the whole Bhajana Kriya is based on these 3 points. So you can't say, well, I'm doing a Bhajana Kriya, but I'm not going to accept a spiritual master. Well, you've just neglected the first 3 points of Bhajana Kriya if you don't accept a spiritual master. So one has to accept a spiritual master. Bhajana Kriya is built on the foundation of that shelter, diksha, and following the orders of the spiritual master. That's what it's built upon, according to Srila Rupa Goswami. So, what is the difference between a non-initiated and an initiated Bhajana Kriya? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
What is the difference between? The difference is they're doing the same activity, but the initiate has vowed to continue doing it for his whole life. That's the difference. One person is chanting 16 rounds. He's not initiated. The other is chanting 16 rounds. He is initiated. What's the difference in their chanting? One has made a lifetime commitment. The other is doing an experiment. And it's interesting to know, actually, it's a very strong statement given by Prabhupada in the Nectar of Devotion. He says, unless you're initiated, Krishna doesn't accept your service. Of course, that doesn't mean anyone who's sincerely getting ready for initiation, that is also accepted. But the whole point of making that commitment is very important. Now you've committed yourself to be a devotee of the devotee. That's absolutely essential, according to the Adi Purana statement of the Lord. You've committed yourself. Initiation now is you've committed yourself to be the devotee of the devotee. So Bhajana Kriya, without that commitment, Krishna says, no, I don't recognize it. You want me to recognize your bhajana? Well, you have to do it through the medium of my servant. That's Krishna's position. Questions more? Like the question well has run dry. Yes?
Alright, is it possible that the temple authority does recommend a disciple for initiation, but the spiritual masters can still reject?
What did he say? Could you hear what he said?
He said, if the temple president or authorities recommend someone for initiation, can the spiritual master still reject?
If someone is recommended, yes, the spiritual master can definitely reject anybody he wants to. Even if he's recommended, he may think, well, I don't think their recommendation was very intelligently. I don't think this is a very intelligent recommendation. I happen to know things about this person that makes me hesitant to accept their karma. It's the spiritual master doesn't have to accept just because there's a recommendation. He's not obliged to do that. It's a fact. He can say no, they're not ready yet. You say they're ready, but I don't feel that they're ready, so I'm not going to do it. Yeah.
But what about the opposite?
Huh?
What about the opposite if spiritual master feels that this person is
ready and the authorities say no? In our society, the spiritual masters are not supposed to do that. I've seen sometimes they do that, they violate the policy of ISKCON and do that. It's not very good. We've seen that happen sometimes. The Guru will ignore the ISKCON system and just initiate on their own. It's a very dangerous position. It weakens our institution. It's not very good when the spiritual masters ignore the laws of the GBC and initiate people without any authorization from the temple authorities. That's a very bad precedent which can break our society into 80 different guru sects. I don't recommend that any guru, I recommend to all my guru god brothers to kindly do not do such things. Work through the GBC system, because otherwise we break our movement apart. We break it apart. Now sometimes the authorities are not really sure because they have a certain perception of the person, the spiritual master has a perception. Sometimes the spiritual master will negotiate with the local authority and say, I've had this, my experience of this person is I really feel is ready. And the local authorities say, okay, if you feel that to be the case, then we'll give our recommendation. Sometimes it happens that way. The spiritual master might sometimes give input, but spiritual master in our ISKCON system will always depend on the recommendation of local authorities. He should never act independently. And I've seen when they do that, it creates a lot of trouble in our society. So I really hope that practice will not continue in our society. Sometimes they do that, and it's not good. That such thing must not go on in our society. When gurus independently initiate disciples. It's a very bad thing for our society. It breaks us apart. Solidarity is very important, you see. Tamal Krishna Maharaj told one story, and this is shocking actually when you hear it, but I heard him tell it more than once. One time the devotees accidentally broke a Kadasi and probably went ahead and broke it with them for the sake of unity. I'm not recommending that we start doing this now, but Prabhupada, the one devotee breaks a Kadasi, we'll all break it with them. No, I'm not saying we should do that, don't misunderstand. Prabhupada can teach things by example that we cannot imitate. But Prabhupada did that. Tamal Krishna Maharaj told that story many times. Prabhupada wanted to establish the principle of being together, solidarity. It's a very important principle. That solidarity must be there in our society. If united we stand, divided we fall. The Gaudiya Math, they broke apart because they didn't follow the instructions of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur to form a GBC after his disappearance. We see there's so many attacks against the GBC, the governing body commission of our society. So many people are attacking. But we cannot allow ourselves to be swayed by these attacks. We have to defend. Even if we disagree with something the GBC did, still we must accept the principle of the GBC. The GBC doesn't claim infallibility, and sometimes they'll make one resolution and they'll go around and reverse it. Whoops, we made a mistake on that one. And they'll reverse it because they got a lot of feedback from the different devotees in the society and realized, I think we blew it on this one, and they'll reverse it. That happened recently. They made one resolution and they got so much feedback from leading devotees throughout the movement, they reversed it. They realized they had made a mistake. So the GBC doesn't claim infallibility, but it's our duty to follow the principle. Just like you have a Supreme Court here in Australia, you see. And having a Supreme Court unifies this country. Everyone follows the decision of the Supreme Court. Now the Supreme Court can reverse their decision later on if they want to. They have the power to do that. But the principle of following the Supreme Court, that creates unity throughout the whole country of Australia. So our Supreme Court is the GBC. Even if we don't agree with everything they do, still we accept the principle and abide by their decisions faithfully as Kantimala wearing members of the society, of Prabhupada society. So since they created a system that the Guru should not initiate unless he has the recommendation of a local authority, we should follow that system for the sake of the movement. Because we don't want to break the movement apart.
So what shall the disciples
do?
What shall the disciples do?
Well, the disciple is a situation where they're being unfairly held back from being initiated because their local authority doesn't like them or something like that. That sometimes happens. So you can always consult with your GBC representative and tell them, I've been chanting Hare Krishna for the last 15 years and following the regulated principles, and my temple president tells me I'm not ready yet. So you can write to your GBC representative and tell him, I have this difficulty with my local authority, I've been chanting 16 rounds and following the regulated principles for the last 15 years, and he says I'm not ready for initiation yet. So there are mechanisms where there are exceptional cases that can be made. If there's one's in a situation where the local authority just has a grudge against you for some reason, and they don't want to to bless you that you can get initiated because they don't like you or something like that. They're just like we have ISKCON Resolve in our society. If one has a grievance you cannot resolve your local authority, then you can go to the GBC, or if they're too busy, they're not able to deal with it, go to ISKCON Resolve. They're specifically geared for resolving conflicts between devotees. You can find them easily. Just go to Google and type in ISKCON Resolve, you'll get their website. They have a whole thing of you can submit your grievance, and they'll be a negotiator between you and the devotee that you're having a hard time with. They'll act as a negotiator. They're an official authorized by the GBC. What do they call them? There's a term for it. Median? What's it called? Mediator? Arbitrator. Yeah, they're official authorized ISKCON arbitrators between you and whoever you have a conflict with. The other person will have to, this is ISKCON Resolve, they can't just rush it off. You see, ISKCON Resolve is now coming as to arbitrate a dispute, and the other party is going to have to respond. If they want to be recognized as part of ISKCON, they're going to have to respond to ISKCON Resolve when ISKCON Resolve comes in to arbitrate a dispute. So if there's something you can't work out with your local authority, and you can't work it out, you've tried 1,000,001 different ways, you've offered your obeisances, you've begged forgiveness, you've tried everything you can, you talked to your GBC, you've done so many things and nothing works, then go to ISKCON Resolve. Why should one follow rules and regulations? What is the name of our society? The International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Is this the International Society for Rules and Regulations? No. So actually we're not that interested in rules and regulations, really. We're interested in Krishna consciousness. However, we accept rules and regulations for the sake of Krishna consciousness. Just like when you go to a doctor, you say, doctor, I've come here because I love medicine. I just love taking medicine. I've come to get some medicine because I love taking medicine. No. You come to the doctor because I love being healthy. So we come to Krishna consciousness to become spiritually healthy, not to follow rules and regulations. But the rules and regulations are accepted because they are favorable. But however, if you go too far into rules and regulations, that is cause for fall down. Niyama agraha. Niyama agraha, given by Rupa Goswami, has a twofold meaning. To be too neglectful of rules and regulations cause one to fall down, or to be too much into rules and regulations can also cause one to fall down from Krishna consciousness. So rules and regulations are accepted as subservient to the principle of Krishna consciousness. We accept them to that point, but not beyond that. Prabhupada gives the example when he came to America. He was keeping his bhoga for offering to the Lord in the refrigerator. He was staying with one couple in New York City, and he noticed there was meat in the refrigerator. And Prabhupada said, if I cried that I had broken my rules and regulations, in other words, if Prabhupada were to think, well, I can't break this rule, therefore I cannot be here in America, I have to go back to Vrindavan. You see? And how could he start this movement? So Prabhupada gave the whole morning walk. They entitled it, The Proper Application of Rules and Regulations. Rules and regulations are accepted at the point of accepting Krishna consciousness. Here's an interesting story. And when they were in Moscow, they had made some sweet rice. It was very hard to get anything eatable in Moscow in those days. It was just meat everywhere. They somehow got some milk and they made some sweet rice. And they had nowhere to store it. They actually used, you know how in this toilet room you have something for washing yourself? They put it in that. Prabhupada told them to do. Can you imagine? Better than throwing it away. Talk about, breaking the rules and regulations. Putting sweet rice in the thing that was sitting by the commode for washing yourself. Can you imagine? We would just shudder at the idea, but there they were in Russia, and they had nothing else. And when you're in Russia, there's nothing else to do. You do the needful. Prabhupada did the needful. He had them put the sweet rice in that toilet washing yourself in the toilet container. So it's a matter, Prabhupada said, do not break, if there's any necessity, if there's urgent necessity, the rules can be broken, but you have to consult with your spiritual master, and as long as he's present in this world, you should consult with him to make sure you're doing the right thing. If there's some rule you feel really has to be broken for Krishna's service, then consult with your spiritual master to make sure. And when he's gone, what you can do? Well, you can ask senior devotees, GBC, or you can try to connect with your spiritual master in your heart also. But the principle is rules and regulations are accepted to the point of enhancing our Krishna consciousness, and if they get to the point if they get in the way of it, we're not interested in rules and regulations. Should one follow rules and regulations even if we do not know why we have to? A neophyte devotee should definitely follow the rules and regulations. I remember when I joined, we had some rules and regulations posted on the wall of our brahmachari ashram. We weren't even, it said no relative topics are allowed. You can't even talk about anything ordinary or mundane in the ashram. You can't even talk about anything like, it is to be all Krishna Katha. That was a rule. You couldn't talk about anything mundane in the ashram. Only Krishna Katha could be discussed. It's another rule was you can't throw away any prasadam. You have to, even if it's an austerity, you have to eat everything on your plate. That was another one of the rules. You don't throw away prasadam. So I didn't really understand everything. I was brand new. I just said, all right, this is the rules. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Just follow the rules. You should definitely be in that mood of following the rules. You see, if you're a very senior devotee and you have a deep understanding of the principles behind the rules, that's another thing. But how many of us are in that position? We should follow the temple policies. It's a very important thing. Everybody starts doing their own program, it will be havoc, it will be chaos. We should follow the instructions coming from the rules and regulations set up by the local temple, how the deity worship should be conducted, how the temple cleanliness should be maintained, how, whatever rules or regulations are set up by the local authorities, we should follow them. Just like here we have some policies for our retreat, 4:30 Mangalarti. So everybody should be here for Mangalarti, 4:30. Next question. An uninitiated devotee follows rules and regulations with knowledge, and an initiated devotee does the same activities without knowledge. Well, this reminds me, there's 4 different levels of competence. The first level is called unconscious incompetence. That I'm making every mistake in the world. I don't even know what an idiot I am, how I'm doing everything wrong. I have no idea that I'm doing everything wrong. I'm smoking cigarettes, I'm dating girls, I'm eating hamburgers, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it because the material society says you're great. So I'm not doing it as my own example here, but I'm doing all these things and thinking I'm very good. So I'm unconsciously incompetent in terms of Vedic culture. I'm an incompetent nitwit, violating every regulated principle, but I don't realize it. So that's called unconscious incompetence. But then I get one of Prabhupada's books and I go, wow, I'm doing everything wrong here. I'm messing around with girls, I'm getting intoxicated, I'm smoking marijuana, I'm eating anything and everything. I'm really sinful. I didn't even know I was sinful. So now that is called conscious incompetence. So that's a very good position to come to. Wow. I realize, now I know why I'm so miserable. I've been violating every law in the scriptures. That's why I'm so miserable. So now let me become conscious to avoid all of those activities. I'll become a brahmachari, you see. I'll give up drinking alcohol, smoking marijuana, give up eating meat. I'll now dedicate my life to eating prasad, following the scriptures. Now I'm very conscious to avoid those things. I'm very careful. I must take prasadam, I must not eat this. You see, in this way, I'm consciously competent. But when one comes to the highest perfection, which is way, way out there on the Prema level, then it becomes automatic. You don't have to think, well, I have to follow the rules now. No, you're automatically following the rules. Spontaneously following the rules. That's the perfectional stage. It's unconscious competence. So here it says, an uninitiated devotee follows the rules and regulations with knowledge. Initiated does the same activities without knowledge. Oh, it's a different meaning, perhaps. The one who is completely purified, he performs all the devotional activities even without knowledge. He just spontaneously does them. So it's slightly different than the question, but it reminded me of this point. So I think I understand the question better now. If someone knows what he's doing and follows the principles, and he's not initiated, and someone is initiated and doesn't really know what he's doing, who gets more benefit? That's the real thrust of this question. Although it could be interpreted in the other way, I can see the real thrust of the question. In other words, there's initiation, some kind of a magic wand that allows you to not be very fixed in Krishna consciousness. No, it's not. It's not some magic wand that gives you the slack of being negligent and not knowing what you're doing. Initiation is a commitment now that you must become more qualified, more expert. Just like you come as a volunteer worker. Now sometimes they do that in some countries I've seen. It's very difficult to get hired in a certain profession. In one Eastern European country, I have one disciple who just graduated from law school, and to get a position in a law firm is not easy. But one thing you can do is you can just volunteer to work there for free. And then you can get in easily, and then once they see how good you are, then they can put you on the payroll. But you have to go through that period where you don't get paid at all. You're just working for free, you see. So, that person who is working for free, he's not under the same kind of pressure. Because he's not, it's not that once you're a hired worker, then you're under more pressure to perform according to the expectations of the leaders of the law firm. You're just a volunteer, well, okay, we'll just give you, it's not such a big deal if you make some mistakes when you're just a volunteer learning the ropes. When you actually get hired, now we expect a higher standard from you. So in the same way, an initiated devotee, he's expected to be on a higher standard than one who's not initiated. There's greater responsibility once you're initiated. There's a little slack when you weren't initiated. Well, he's not initiated yet. But now you're initiated, we expect a higher standard. So if the uninitiated is neglectful, the initiated, is neglectful, then that's not very good for his spiritual life. And if he follows, then he's greatly empowered and enhanced in his spiritual progress. Dear Guru Maharaj, these accept my humble obeisances. What is more important, chanting 16 rounds very fast, that one hardly understands what is chanting, even without tasting the higher taste. If you're a Krishna Bhakti, you're chanting as many rounds as possible, without sticking to any number in particular. Well, for one who is not initiated, who's just trying to get into the process, we encourage you to take up whatever amount of chanting you can maintain on a regular daily basis as a minimum standard. Whatever you can maintain in your present lifestyle, do it. And then gradually, from that position where you can maintain a steady amount of chanting, then gradually increase. Establish some solid positions, some solid vow that you can maintain, and then gradually become more and more expert. Now, as far as chanting fast or chanting slow, that's not the issue. The issue is, are you hearing each syllable? What is the mood? Prabhupada actually said that one could chant, with practice, one could chant around in 5 minutes, which is pretty fast. You get all your runs done in an hour, 20 minutes. So the speed is not the thing. The thing is, what is your mood? Are you calling out for Krishna's mercy, begging Him, like a child crying for the mother? Are you calling out to the Lord, begging Him to bless you, to save you from your suffering position in the modes of nature? And you're making your call to the Lord distinct, that it's not just like that. Then you're okay. Whether it's fast or slow, it doesn't matter. As long as it's distinct and your mood is you're calling out for help, then it doesn't matter. You can be fast, you can be slow. That's not the issue. The issue is, are you pronouncing the syllables and are you in the mood of calling for help? So why then is 16 rounds emphasized? If there's not some minimum standard given, our tendency will be, as we are lazy people, we tend to deprioritize Krishna consciousness and prioritize bodily consciousness. Many people tell me, well, I just can't chant 16 rounds. I can't do it. I want to, but I just can't do it. And I ask them, and they say, but I'll try to do it. And I'll say, well, do you try to eat? I ask you, do you eat? You say, oh, well, I'll try to eat. No, you eat. Is anybody here who just tries to eat? Everybody eats. Everyone eats. No one says, no, I'll try to eat. No, I'll eat. Come hell or high water, I'm going to eat. I'm definitely going to eat. I'm not going to give up eating. I'm not going to try to eat. I will eat, you see. So are you that body? Eating is just feeding your body. Chanting is feeding your soul. So if I am the soul, will you try to chant or will you chant? If I say I'll try to chant, it means you don't think you're the soul. You think you're the body. As soon as you say I will try to chant, it immediately says I don't think that I'm the soul. I rather consider myself to be this body, and I will definitely eat, but I'll try to chant. You understand? If you really understand that you're not your body, you will chant. You will not starve yourself. Just as you will not starve your body, you will not starve the spirit soul within by neglecting the chanting. So why 16 rounds? Because that's the minimum amount of chanting necessary to keep the soul spiritually alive, spiritually activated. Why do you give your mobile phone a full charge before you leave the house? Because you don't want it to go dead, right? In the middle of the day? So 16 rounds is the full charge for the soul. It's the full charge for your consciousness. Chant 16 rounds. If you don't chant 16 rounds, your mobile phone is only halfway charged. In the middle of the afternoon when that important call comes in, someone wanted to hire you, you've been looking for 6 months for a job, and now the call came in and your phone went dead. And somebody else got the position because you weren't able to respond in time. You don't want that phone to go dead. You want to fully charge that phone. Therefore, you don't want your spiritual batteries to go dead halfway through the day. Well, I chanted 8 rounds, and maybe I'll chant some more in the evening, maybe not. Depends how I feel when I get home from work. No, get 16 rounds done first thing when you get up. Before you get out there in that traffic, in that hellish traffic, get those rounds done. And you'll be smiling all the way through that traffic jam, all the way through your day in the office. You'll be smiling, big smile. I got 16 rounds done. I'm beyond the modes of nature. I'm situated in the spiritual sky all day long, you see. Chant 16 good rounds first thing in the morning and you'll be in bliss. So, and if you're a mother with kids, well, You got to train your kids in such a way that you can get around them. It's actually the most demanding job of all is a mother with kids. It's more demanding than anything else you can imagine. That's why the mother is said to be the emblem of love. In the material world, if there's any love at all, it's the love of the mother for the children. Because there's nothing more traumatic, nothing more difficult, nothing more trying than to be a mother with kids. Because the kids are constantly demanding 24 hours a day attention. It's very, very difficult. Let's see, I do chant when I take prasadam, I feed my children, read Krishna stories and Gita stories with my children, take care of my deities, etc. But having a bead and chanting and sitting in one place is very difficult to me right now. What can I do? Please instruct me. I'm wondering whether I'm Krishna conscious. Yes, you are Krishna conscious on a neophyte stage, and we appreciate it very much. That's very good. Maintain that desire to be able to chant 16 rounds, and Krishna will help you. That's a fact. As man proposes, God disposes. One thing is, depends on the age of the children, but one thing is, wake up before your kids. If possible, wake up before your kids. When they're all asleep, chant your round. As far as possible. Chant your round before they wake up. So anyway, these are specific, very specific situations, not philosophical, but these are some principles. If one is sincerely desiring to be able to chant, then Krishna will help one to find the way to work it into your schedule. So, do we have any other questions? Yeah?
You said blind faith should not be there in the previous session. Now, in this session you said you have to anyway follow rules.
Blind faith is condemned, Prabhupada said.
And in this session you were mentioning about rules have to be followed anyway, even if you...
About what?
Rules have to be followed. You gave the example of...
Yes, it's good to follow the rules, but you should understand, you shouldn't blindly follow the rules. You should understand why the rules should be followed, even if you don't understand all the rules. You understand? You could say, well, that's contradictory, but no, it's not. You can understand that I've been lost in the cycle of birth and death for millions of lifetimes, and now Srila Prabhupada has come, and he's set up a society, a movement, and he's given a practical system of awakening divine consciousness within. Now I can understand that Prabhupada is a great teacher. He has unlimited mercy for the fallen souls of this age. So whatever instructions are coming down from Srila Prabhupada through my local authority, I should be respectful of that, because Prabhupada wants us to follow those instructions. So even though you may not understand the little details of each instruction, you should understand the principle by pleasing the spiritual master. In this case, our Siksha Guru, Srila Prabhupada. By pleasing our Siksha Guru, then we are able to please Krishna, you see. In this way we will make progress back to home, back to Godhead. You should always find, even if you can understand why this particular rule, I mean, here's an example. In the Nectar Devotion it says, you should not wear red or blue in front of the deities. You read that rule? Should not wear red or blue in front of the deities. I make sure not to buy a red or a blue kurta, for example, because of that rule. So in Los Angeles, one of the Matajis asked Prabhupada, why this rule, not wearing blue? Prabhupada said, because it's a rule. That was his answer, because it's a rule. But it's interesting to know, when the first wedding was given in our society, Prabhupada instructed the devotee, Mukunda, to buy a red sari for his wife for the wedding ceremony. A brilliant red sari. So it's interesting. Recently one of my students had bought he was sporting a red Nrsimha t-shirt, and he knew about the rule. And he wondered, what should I do? Gurudev, can I wear this? And I said, well, since you've already got it, go ahead. But don't buy another red t-shirt. I was lenient because Prabhupada one time said, he told you to get a red sari for your wife. And he said, follow this because it's a rule. So, as a spiritual master, how should I guide my disciple? Well, I told him, well, you spent the money, you got a very nice Nrsimha t-shirt from the gift store at the temple. And now can I wear it or not? Well, go ahead, because you paid for it, and keep it until it wears out, and just don't get a new, get a yellow one the next time. Gradually, if no one buys the red T-shirts in the gift store, they won't sell them anymore. It's a matter of the gift store thinks in terms of supply and demand. They want to make a profit. So just don't buy the red and blue T-shirts anymore, and they won't sell them anymore. Ask for a green or a yellow one, So, so anyway, Prabhupada said, because it's a rule. So, on the one hand, he says blind following is condemned. The other hand, he says, don't wear blue because it's a rule. So you think, well, is Prabhupada contradicting himself? See, if you're on the mundane level of finding fault, you will think, yes, Prabhupada contradicted himself. He said, follow this rule because it's a rule. Then he said, no blind following. But no, you have to understand the principle behind the rules. If you study the Nectar Devotion very carefully, you will see these rules coming down from previous acharyas, coming from Rupa Goswami actually. These rules are indeed valuable friends to assist us on the pathway back to home, back to Godhead. So wouldn't you want to take all the help you can get on the pathway back to Godhead? Don't you feel that you need all the help you can get for going back to home, back to Godhead? Well, you have some friends. You got 64 friends in the Nectar Devotion, ready to help you go back to Godhead. See them as your friends, your well-wishing friends who will help you go back to Godhead. One rule is you're supposed to circumambulate the temple. But in some temples, the layout is not practical. Like in Sydney, I don't think it's practical to circumambulate the temple. Depends on the construction of the temple. In Riga, it's certainly not practical. The way it's built with the parking lot and all that. They wouldn't want that parking lot to be very disturbed if the devotees circumambulated through the parking lot, you see. And the real thing is to see what Prabhupada did. He gave these rules from Rupa Goswami. We see exactly how Prabhupada conducted himself as a devotee. You see, that's the other thing, the example of the Acharya. So that became the basis of our understanding, seeing Prabhupada and how he conducted himself. That became the basis for our understanding. More so than, that was the most important thing for us. The monkey see, monkey do. We were the monkeys, and Prabhupada was the great Acharya, and we just followed his example. We, of course, didn't mean imitate that we would exactly do everything he did, but we saw what he did to show an example of how to practice Krishna consciousness, and we followed that. Just like earrings are very popular nowadays for the men, but Prabhupada didn't wear. So we didn't wear. I came to the movement with an earring, but the devotee said, Dr. Steve, you got to get rid of that earring. And I was really attached. I said, no, I can't do that. So I put a little Lord Chaitanya in there, I'm going to keep my earring, But after a while, getting in, tasting the nectar of Krishna consciousness, I gave it up. Gave up my attachment to my earring. Because, what's an earring compared to awakening Krishna bhakti? So, Prabhupada never forbid us to wear earrings. In fact, even when Pujari was wearing earring in Krishna Balaram temple, the Pujari had an earring. And Prabhupada never forbade him to wear the earring. So it's not like some hard and fast policy, you can't have an earring, you see. But Prabhupada didn't have an earring, you see. So we noted, that was our mood in Prabhupada's here. We noted how Prabhupada conducted himself as a devotee, how he dressed as a devotee. And we followed that. Because that was, for us, to follow Prabhupada's example, that was the most enlivening thing you could do, to be a Prabhupada man, all the way down the line. You see, all the way down the line, following Prabhupada's example. So in terms of rules and regulations, well, how did Prabhupada deal with that regulation? How did he deal with it? We would follow them. Because we knew that Prabhupada's a pure devotee. He's a great Paramahamsa. And by doing things the way he does them, by relating to the rules, the way Prabhupada relates to them, that will be our guarantee of going back to Godhead. Does that clear up things a little bit? Okay?
Gurudev, where is the borderline between imitation and following?
Yes. The borderline between imitation, Prabhupada did say, follow in the footsteps means to follow the instructions. It doesn't mean to imitate. So, for example, some devotees tried to accept disciples when Prabhupada was still on the planet. And that was definitely a violation of etiquette. Prabhupada was not at all pleased. He had to correct them. You see, even though the spiritual master is accepting disciples, the disciple cannot do that when his spiritual master is present. That is something the disciple does as a matter of duty after his spiritual master departs. But to do that in the presence of the spiritual master, imitating him, well, he's accepting the disciple, so I will also accept. That's a violation of the orders of the spiritual master. So you have to see what are the orders of the spiritual master, and that's where you can draw the line. They were thinking, well, Prabhupada's accepting, I will also accept. But no, not in his presence. So that's one example, very poignant example in this connection. Any other questions? Yeah.
If at the time of initiation, a spiritual master takes away the karmas of initiated devotee, why do they still suffer?
Yes. That example is given by Prabhupada, that a fan, when you pull out the plug, it will still rotate for some time due to the previous momentum. So, when you take Diksha, the spiritual master takes your karma, but it only takes away 99%. There's still the residual momentum from your previous sinful activities, which is gradually winding down. If you don't sin again, that fan blade will come to a stop. Therefore, it is stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam, if I can remember that sloka. The English is, my dear Lord, those devotees who are constantly awaiting your causeless mercy to be bestowed upon them, who continue offering you their respectful obeisances while undergoing the reactions from their previous sinful activities, are certainly eligible candidates for liberation. Indeed, it has become their rightful claim. So there's such a thing as a devotee who has taken seriously this pathway is still suffering reactions from his previous actions. Prabhupada explains it is a token reaction. It is not the full reaction. But even after initiation, one can still get a token reaction for one's previous sins. So that means the spiritual master takes away most of your karma, but there's a little bit left to help you to remember the seriousness of what you're doing. Not to sin again. If you get a token reaction, that's a stark reminder, whatever you do, don't sin. Because now you're getting this reaction. It's a mere token of your previous sins. Just imagine if you sin again now after initiation, what kind of turmoil that will put you in. Therefore, that's the kindness of Krishna. That small token reaction that comes is actually the great mercy of Krishna. Anything else? Yes?
After initiation, the activities of a disciple, like if he does something bad, so will the spiritual master get a reaction?
Yes. Prabhupada explains how the spiritual master can become sick due to the misdeeds of his initiated disciples. He can also suffer very hellish dreams as well. So don't put your spiritual master in a difficulty, and the greatest difficulty is the spiritual master has to take birth again to deliver his disciples who couldn't make it back to home, back to Godhead. He has to take birth again to save them. That's a very heavy thing to take disciples. It's not like, oh wow, I get to sit on the Vyasasana, I give a lot of classes. And it's a very heavy responsibility that now I'm bound up and I'm connected with these persons. And if they don't go back to Godhead, of course if someone completely rejects the spiritual master, that's another thing. Then Krishna just cuts that whole commitment. But if someone is sincerely trying to be a devotee, and they can't make it, and are having great difficulty, the spiritual master has to take birthing in to save them. Okay. Okay, I'm not sure if this is an appropriate question, but George Harrison helped the movement, but was not initiated. What is the destiny of such a person who has helped the movement so much? George Harrison is in a very good situation right now, for sure. I mean, he was so dear to Prabhupada. When they opened that Bhaktivedanta Manor, Prabhupada said, George Harrison ki jai. I mean, George Harrison's in very good shape. He's sitting really pretty spiritually right now, I tell you. Wherever he is, he's in very good shape. For that service he did to Prabhupada, such wonderful service. I mean, how many devotees did he help make? I mean, he had such a he was part of my becoming a devotee. I'm indebted to George Harrison. For me, he's a great hero. I remember just wandering into that bookstore in San Francisco and seeing a Krishna book and opening up and seeing Words from Apple. There was George Harrison. I went, wow, there's George Harrison telling me to chant Hare Krishna, you know. I mean, and he influenced so many devotees. I heard God Brothers, when George visited Vrindavan that one time, the God Brothers just walk up to him and just say, oh George, I wanted to thank you. You helped me become a devotee. I'm so indebted to you. So George is in a very good position. Prabhupada so much appreciated George. He had such wonderful reciprocation they had. I mean, he would come to the manor and he would come in and he and Prabhupada would sit together and Prabhupada would feed him, make sure he was just completely stuffed with prasadam. And even there's a video, I have a copy of it, after Prabhupada left. It's one afternoon at the Bhaktivedanta Manor. It's a wonderful video. And George came and he led the kirtan. He sat down with a harmonium, he led all the devotees in a kirtan. Played for like 20 minutes a kirtan. And they were sitting around talking. They showed George the Krishna art book. They're all sitting, the God Brothers were sitting around with George. He's like one of the God Brothers, you know. It was so nice. And then after he went back to his car to drive away, he was hugging every devotee. All the men, there's no women there, but any devotee who wanted to hug George, he would hug every single devotee, give him a nice warm hug. And we had such a wonderful feeling for our movement, and he so much appreciated Prabhupada. Even after Prabhupada was gone, he so much appreciated the devotees of the movement. So, and sometimes he was very close with Mukunda Maharaj and Shyamasundar Prabhu and with Gurudas Prabhu. And they even would sometimes go and visit him at his home, spend time with him at his home in England. So such a person is very, very special. He's a very, very special person, and Krishna he's in a very good position right now, I guarantee you. George is in a very, very good position right now, wherever he is. Shriman George Harrison ki jai. Okay, we got 3 minutes left. Anything else? Okay.
Gurudev, you said about the bad reactions of a disciple. So does the spiritual master get benefits if a disciple does something good?
Oh yes. That's why I love it. My disciples should read books. I have 2 disciples who really love to go out in book distribution. I have every time I say, give me all your scores, give me your Sankirtan stories, and I just get so energized and enlivened to see how they're going out and distributing books. It's so wonderful. There's nothing that pleases me more to see my disciples distribute Prabhupada's books, or just like you're organizing nicely this Govinda Valley, and the fear of prepping you up. But I appreciate very much how you've done this, and this is you get a lot of this is the more that my disciples become successful in their preaching activities, I get the benefit of that. So I'm very happy to see when my disciples can do something very wonderful to push forward this movement. Just like my Guru Das here, he helped to renovate the temple room in Riga the beautiful renovation of the temple room. And he was one of the main funders of that project. And so I feel so happy every time I come into that temple room. It's whatever my disciples can do, I get benefit from that. So please, all of you, my disciples, please do everything you can to purify your hearts and push forward this movement. And that will greatly help me in my spiritual life. Anything else? So we just got 2 minutes left, so maybe we can break early here. 2 minutes early. Get a little extra free time. 2 minutes extra free time. But I'm very appreciative of each and every one of you who've come. I so much want to thank every one of you for participating in this retreat, because each and every one of you is very important to me and very important to Krishna. I mean, every one of you, I mean to say this, that my inspiration for teaching or preaching Krishna consciousness is based on the enthusiasm of the hearers, because I see all of you here are eager to hear. You're listening very nicely. That gives me great enthusiasm and encouragement. So I wanted to thank each and every one of you who's been hearing attentively and trying to absorb what I'm speaking here. You've encouraged me in my preaching. I'm indebted to every one of you. And so thank you very much. And there'll be a Krishna book reading then as the next get-together. What's the program now?